If you have just joined us, welcome to the Gear Up for Work Summit. We've been having a very good session, and I'm hoping that you are finding value in it. And those that are joining, I'm sure you will find value continuing going forward. So we invite and welcome comments and questions throughout the session. Please use the Q&A tab to pose all the questions to the speakers. There's also the Facebook application as well, where you can post pictures and those will be forwarded to me and I can post them on your behalf to the panelists. And I'm hoping that you're finding this summit very informative. And just to recap a bit in terms of questions that were asked earlier, and there were no immediate answers to that. All information about the Young Future Leaders Program that Tebi Tsenyiwe from Old Mutual was talking about, you can visit the Old Mutual website, oldmutual.co.za, and go to the career sections there. You'll find all the information around the Young Future Leaders Program. And in terms of feedback on those that have applied for the Tech Talent IT program, that you will get feedback just before the end of August. And for other areas, it should be around October month. So those were the questions that were asked earlier on. And in terms of the accreditation for University of Johannesburg, we will come back to you with those answers in terms of can you be part of the program as well. So continuing on Gear Up for Work Summit in partnership with BMF, we are now getting into a different sphere of area, and I'm quite excited to introduce our next speaker. She is an admitted attorney who runs a boutique legal consultancy called Imani that specializes in labor relations, employment equity, and farming-related consulting. Wow, farming, employment, and labor relations, what a combination. She specializes in employment law, labor relations, and corporate governance consultancy. She's recognized as a dynamic, energetic, self-driven professional with over 10 years experience in the legal and industrial relations industry. Also internationally recognized for her contribution. And she's quite passionate in terms of youth development and is a board member and general manager of the award-winning Jala Beo Foundation. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing properly, which is a sports for social change that she has helped found. Through her youth development work, she has won the PPS Woman of the Year Award in 2015. She has received the Brand SA Owami Recognition Award in 2016 and was one of the top 4 finalists for the African region for the Commonwealth Worker Awards in 2016. And she's also worked at L'Oreal, she's also was at L'Oreal Women of Worth SA Honorary in 2016 and 2017. Why am I getting tongue-tied? Ooh, Miss Cindy Ross, you're getting me all tongue-tied over here. I guess I'm salivating in terms of this very, very, very proficient bio of yours. So Cindy Ross is going to talk about Get That Job, the job search and the interview skills. And she is an attorney. And if we could just give the necessary ear, I'm sure we are settled in. We are back from having our break. We've logged in and we are settled in. I know this world of virtual and online, our attention spans get a little bit tested a bit. So I'm just hoping now that you are settled, and I see that her presentation is up on the screen. So we've also fixed our technical gremlins at the end. So without further ado, Cindy Ross, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to participate. So I'm nervous and excited at the same time because working with graduates, they always have a whole lot of questions. So I hope I'm able to do the presentation justice. So my presentation is really just going to take all of you through, firstly, your job search. How do you look for the relevant job? And then how to apply, just tips around how to apply. And I think I'm going to try and focus from, I'm not a recruiter by nature, so I'm the person that normally recruits. So I get in applications. So I'll just give a few tips around what's worked for me when I've looked for jobs, but also what it is that I look out for when graduates especially apply. So can we just go to the next slide, please? Okay, so yeah, so like I said, we're going to go through from where we start to actual interview skills. I'll go through just tips on how you can look and practice your interview questions and answers. And then psychometric assessments, I'm really going to touch on that very briefly because I'm not a professional in that space. And then how to deal with once you have the offer of employment, what do you do after that? Can we move on to the next slide, please? Next one. Okay, so how to get started? I think the first speaker also touched on it, is that you need to have more or less an idea of which industry you want to stay in. So for some people, it's very easy to decide. If you're a journalist, you know there's a specific industry for you. Someone like me, on the other hand, I studied law, and initially I wanted to stay in human rights, didn't realize how little it pays, so made a move afterwards. So it was very difficult in the beginning because I didn't really understand how I need to look for specifics and how to align my values to what a company's values are. So what I've normally told people is the best way to look for a company that best suits you is to understand what your values are and what it is that you're looking for. If you're someone that cares about money, going into the NGO space is really not going to meet your needs, because NGO space is about helping and service, where your corporate is where you can have financial career goals. So as a start, oh, can we go back to the previous slide, please? Yeah. So, like I said, what I've generally done is to research companies. So when you're starting off as a graduate, quite a few corporates have graduate recruitment programs that some would have advertised it to you at university while you were at university, but it's always best to just pop onto the company's website, because these days most companies fortunately do have websites. When we graduated, it wasn't always the case. So just to check what is their mission, their vision, and check if it resonates with you, because a lot of companies will say that they want to save the world, but if you read newspaper articles, it's not really what they're about, because corporate is about making money, and it's really not about saving the world. So just trying to align, like I said, what your values is. If you're someone that cares about people and you know you want to work in HR, check for a company that values their people and that drives people performance. And then, yeah, so like I said, it goes to the second point, which discusses target and then researching your companies. The researching of the companies when you're deciding on a company, it's the same research you will use later on when you actually go for your actual interview. Because in an interview, especially when you don't have a lot of experience, with years, the way you interview will change. So when you're a graduate, most of what they're looking for is not whether you have the actual experience, because we know there's no way you're going to have the experience. What we really, or me personally, what I look for is the person willing to learn, as the person got the ability to think and find solutions, and are they going to contribute to my team? Because effectively, when you come in as a graduate, you have book knowledge, and we don't expect you to have the transition yet. We teach you in your first year of work. It's my responsibility as a manager to teach you how to use your book knowledge and convert it back into actual working experience. So then finding a job that matches your qualifications. Like I said, in some industries, it's very simple. If you're an engineer, you know what your skill sets are. Sometimes it's not that simple for us to see. If you're uncertain about what your actual skill set is, it's always best to either speak to, if you're still on campus, speak to one of your lecturers, because if you have been busy on campus, say if you volunteered on campus, I'm now sorry, I'm going to use the legal studies again, because when we study law, you can sign up for what we call law, the legal clinic. So legal clinic is really an easier place to volunteer and build up experience on campus for attorneys, where we give free legal advice obviously with supervision to the public that can't afford legal advice. So that is something that I can put on my CV. You work there for a few months, but it's skills that you can transfer onto your CV. And it's something that initially, like I said, when I wasn't certain about what to put down on my CV, I had a conversation with one of my lecturers to say, okay, how do I decipher what is actually my skill sets? Something that I think sometimes people overlook. I remember my first CV, I actually added in what I did at church as well, because I held a few leadership positions at church. So the reason you initially on your first CV, you add as much as you can. Just it's more to show that you have the ability to learn. You have held responsible positions before, whether it be if you were at, say, Mr. Price and you were working in Mr. Price. It shows the level of initiative if you've been studying and you've been working. So those things are all things that you would put down on your CV. Can I go on to the next slide, please? And then I think people underestimate how many free resources there are on the internet that assist, especially me personally. I still like using YouTube. Just to type into the search, how do I find a job that how do I find a company that I would like to work for? You'd have quite a few YouTubers that would pop up giving you advice on what the best way is to align your own experiences, your values to a corporate company. That's if you want to obviously go into corporate. And then narrow it down when you start graduating, try and narrow your industries down to 2 or 3. You don't want to be applying to everything, because with every application you're not always going to get a positive answer. So it does play on your emotions a bit when people aren't answering you, because when you first graduate in your graduate recruitment programs, yes, your results do matter. If you have very good results, it does matter. But if you just have good results, but you have zero other experience on yours, so you've never volunteered, you've never actually held a job anyway, it kind of does count against you. It's always best to try and do something extra other than just studying. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, and then social networks that you can use to try and find advice from. Like I mentioned, YouTube. I think YouTube is very resourceful, especially because everything is condensed. Your information that you get via YouTube, it's easy to read. A lot of people have little videos where people act out how to interview, all of those things. So the information is a bit easier to consume if you are looking for work. LinkedIn, amazing resource. It's something I started using on campus. I still use it today because there's quite a bit of free resources on LinkedIn. As well with LinkedIn, if you're applying to, say, especially the bigger corporates like your Ernst & Youngs, your Old Mutuals, it would give you access to your senior management or your HR team within that company. Sometimes it is best to just pop an email to that HR and say, look, I would like to work for your company. What are the tips that you have for me in order to assist my application? Facebook, I haven't personally used Facebook for resources, but there are a lot of groups that you would find on Facebook where people share vacancies firstly. I know the United Nations, if you want a job in the United Nations, there's quite a few pages where people share tips on how to do your cover letters, how to do your CVs. When there are vacancies, you'd find that in the Facebook groups. Instagram, wouldn't really, but Twitter as well. A lot of companies use Twitter to promote what the company is about, what's happening in the company. And those are all things, like I said, if you understand and you follow the news, you would be able to see what types of activities the company is involved in. So if the company is very big on development, you'll see that they're always out in the community, always out helping people. If it's a company that's winning awards, your Twitter, your Facebook would obviously be the best place to try and find all of that information. Can I move to the next slide, please? And then job portals. Your job portals is normally what you would use once you have your CV and your LinkedIn profile set up. Your job portals are where you register yourself. So you would place your CV on. Most of them would require you to give some personal information and to link your, say, your Facebook, your Twitter. But that is effectively, if you set up your profile there, it works similarly to what the first speaker spoke to you about LinkedIn, where your recruiters and companies would come to your job portals to try and find graduates or potential candidates. It's also where you could then use these portals to try and find and apply for vacancies. Out of these, Career24, PNet, I think are the ones that probably upload daily the most. Same like LinkedIn, they have a broader reach, so you wouldn't just find positions that are in South Africa, you'd find positions that are international as well. So some recruiters, if you do start off, if you're one of the lucky few that have applied internationally, these are generally the portals that you'd use just to apply for your position. Can you move on to the next slide, please? The next one. Okay. So looking at your job match, obviously, if you do your graduate, I'll start off with a graduate program. So graduate programs normally earmark, all they look for is that you have a degree. So you can start applying for those probably in your final year or your pre-final year. You can start applying for graduate recruitment programs. So why those programs are generally nice is all you need is your specific qualification, and they have a set program which normally takes about 12 months that they'll take you through, trying to teach you about what your role is, so you're not just dumped into a position where you have to figure it out. They graduate recruitment programs, and it's companies, normally it's only the bigger companies like your Old Mutuals, Ernst & Youngs, that can afford to have those types of programs, because you have set staff that look after you during that time. So it's good for building your skills as well and building your confidence. So they'll take you for the 12 months throughout the company, giving you exposure to the specific industry, but also helping you upskill yourself within your industry. So not all of us had the privilege to start off with graduate recruitment programs. I remember my first time I had to go to court. My superior at the time didn't even bother to explain to me what happens in court, or prepare me for it. I had to walk into court. I had zero clue about the processes within court. So really I had to ask around and ask people on the day at court, what is it that I need to do? Where I feel that my friends that went through graduate recruitment programs, by the end of the 12 months, they had so much more confidence than what I had, because I had to fall and learn by trial and error. I wasn't taken through a certain process. So like I said, graduate recruitment programs, they'll normally specify as well who they're looking for. So someone like Old Mutual, they're not exactly going to look for a journalist. They don't need journalism within unless you have communications attached to it. They're not just going to take you because you can write newspaper articles. But they have, like I said, the graduate recruitment job spec would specify to you what qualifications they are looking for. You then apply according to that. If you choose not to go via that route, the best way to check if your skill sets or your qualification matches the job is just to check if there's a job ad. Normally it would say and specify what is the job requirements. So there you would be able to see that if you've been a supervisor at Mr. Price, and they say you need management or management skills, you'll be able to tick it off because you have worked with people or you have managed people before. So you look at the requirements to just double check on there if it is something that you can qualify for. I am someone that in your cover letter, if there's 10 requirements and you only meet 5 of the requirements, I would then advise you to use your cover letter that goes with your CV in the application to motivate why you feel that you you are a good fit for the specific role. Usually adding things that look, what helps in your cover letter is to say that I'm a fast learner, I'm willing to learn more. If you can portray within your CV and your cover letter that you have a willingness to learn and that you're willing to put in the effort, sometimes we would give you the opportunity still to come for the interview, even though you don't meet all the necessary requirements. And then tailor your application. Yeah, it's very important that you can't use, say if you've drafted one CV, you can't use that one CV for every kind of application under the sun. You need to tailor your application, and the easiest way probably to do that is from industry to industry. They would be asking you different things, so nobody has a one size fit all CV. So what I normally advise students is to double check if you have your, say, your job spec, which is the ad that the company sent out in relation to what the role is for. Double check that your CV speaks to those things. And I'm not saying lie. If you don't have qualifications or you haven't done something, please don't put it in your CV. But just double check. So say, for instance, on the CV, it says, look, we need a very friendly person. The person must have good interpersonal skills. And say, for instance, at church, you're the person that greets everybody when they come into church. You would add that in to say, I have good interpersonal skills. I mean, list down that I'm the host at church, so that the person can just see that you do have the skills that you say. So like I said, just remember with every application, please double check that your CV speaks to what it is that they're looking for. And do not send, don't fall into the trap of, if someone has reviewed your CV, sending out your CV to every, thinking it's a one size fits all. And then your cover letter is also extremely important. Some people will tell you that it's not necessary to add a cover letter. I advise always add a cover letter and make your cover letter personal. So if you're applying to Old Mutual, study Old Mutual and say, and list the reasons in your cover letter that you would like to work for Old Mutual, because it's one of the biggest investment or banking institutions in South Africa. List that it has a good history and a strong history, and you would like to learn from such an organization. So your cover letter is really where you can make it personal. So you can justify that, look, Old Mutual's values align to my own values, and that is why I want to work for the for the company. So my advice would be always add a cover letter. Later on in your career, once you hit senior management, it will become easier, because then people start calling you. You don't need to apply. But when you start off, always add a cover letter to it. Where you can find good templates is as well using YouTube to double check on how to write a cover letter. You'd also find in Google, there's quite a few websites that gives templates and tips on how to write a good cover letter. And from industry to industry, different people would require different things within their cover letter. So make sure that your cover letter is specific to the industry you're applying for as well. And then, is there any questions so far, or am I going too fast?
No, you are fine in terms of the pace, unless you want to take a little bit of a breather and I can pose one or two questions. Is that fine?
I think let's ask one or two questions.
Okay, fine. There's one from Karabo Pizze. She asks, can you apply for a graduate recruitment program as a third-year student, and are there programs flexible to academics?
Graduate recruitment programs, you normally have to have your degree. You'll start your application process so that you ensure that when you're done with your degree the following year, you have that you would have, you start off within the company, but it's highly unlikely that they would take you beforehand, because one of the requirements is that you have to have a finalized degree. Okay. But I wouldn't say that you also need to check that a lot of companies have summer programs. So what a summer school program is where during your holidays, a lot of companies would actually allow you to come, while you're still a student, would allow you to come in and work during the holiday. Most of them don't really pay. And if they do, it's probably just going to be your transport and back. But that is very good, so that you bridge the gap between having experience, because if you can prove that, look, I've done 1 or 2 summer programs with a big corporate, it does count for a lot. So just double check and look at people at different organizations' websites to see whether they do offer either job shadowing. I know Celsi has that Take a Girl Child to Work program. So you find very different programs that would give you exposure to the industry and to the company.
Okay, thank you. I've been told that there's a raised hand, and can we please have the raised hand to ask a question?
Okay. I can't see.
Ms. Ngube, if you could please unmute.
Ngube, you've been asked to unmute, please.
Yes, I did, sir.
Thank you. You can go.
I wanted to ask, is there any other websites that you know that one can find any vacancies or especially internships other than Puff and Pass websites for candidate attorneys or any legal internships?
Okay, for candidate attorneys, just try and follow the, it's not Law Society anymore, the Legal Practice website. So they are on LinkedIn and Facebook and so forth. And just try and get access, because on your campus, if you're studying law, within the legal department, if you go to your admin building, they would have legal magazines. So those legal magazines are normally where some companies would advertise if they have, if they're looking for candidate attorneys as well. It's also where you would find out your summer school program. So the big law firms, it's normally on their website, and they have specific periods during the year that you can. But I know the smaller firms, they normally either email it to the legal practice and they'll advertise it as they go. With law firms as well, with most of the medium size and the smaller ones, if you actually just walk up to them, how I got my articles is I went to a few law firms and just dropped off my CV myself. They hadn't done any adverts or anything. And I just decided to go on my own, because I think as a fraternity, we all know that we have a responsibility to help the ones coming afterwards. So it's much easier than in other industries to try and find it. But like I said, I would follow the Legal Practice Society and then try and get the magazine, access to the magazine. It's called, no, I can't remember, but it's your legal magazines, but your law, your admin department would have those things, because they get it I think it comes out every month. So they would have it and you'd find the adverts in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else, or can we go back?
Oh, wow, I can really raise a hand.
Is there another hand?
There is
Okay,
success. Just hold on a bit.
There's another question asking about recruitment agencies.
Yes.
I would try and use recruitment agencies, because the nice thing about using a recruitment agency is, firstly, it's free. Secondly, they would take you through their own interview process to try and understand who you are as a person, and also to try and understand what it is that you want and what you're looking for. So they'll then specifically look for types of jobs that would suit your personality. And I think they're able to link the job with the person that you are a bit better than what we can on our own. So I would use them if you'd find someone that actually works with graduates, because not all of them work with graduates. You get different kinds of recruitment firms. So some only work with executives and senior managers. It's not all of them that work with graduates. So try and find recruitment agencies that do work with graduates. And then, like I said, I would apply and pop them an email and ask them for guidance.
Okay, thank you. There's one from Success Matevela. Emma asking on behalf of Success. it goes, how do you answer the question? Tell us more about yourself. What exactly are they looking for and where do you start?
Okay, so the tell us more about yourself, it's as simple as it sounds. It's just say if you want someone to apply for the job, is to try and understand who they are as a person. So what I normally advise is that you stick to explaining that, look, what you studied, why you studied, what you've studied, and then just give a brief explanation of who you are as a person. So I'll use myself as an example. When I'm asked the question, I would say I'm someone that loves people and I like making a difference. So I need to be in a space where I'm allowed to make a difference and work with people, because if you put me behind a desk and I don't see people, I will die, and I'd be frustrated. So that is the reason I add that in, is that I need to have interaction with people. I am not a behind the desk person. So like I said, and if in those types of questions, if we see that you're going off on the wrong tangent, because you're a graduate, we would help you by asking you certain questions. So what I like asking is, tell me about your family, because your family setup also gives me an indication of where you come from, why you work as hard as you do. And I wouldn't shy away from being honest with regards to who you are, because I think sometimes you find graduates, they try to create this perception of who they are, and we can see through it. If you come from a township and you say, I studied because I want to get my family out of the township, it's going to mean much more to me than to say, yes, but to act like you haven't had the struggle to get to where you are, because you get a lot of people that hide the fact that they've gone through something. So like I said, in the tell me more about yourself, limited to why you studied what you studied, so that I have an understanding that you didn't just study because that was all that there was and you didn't know what you wanted to become. That's why I'm saying, say I've studied law. Why I studied law: I want to change the world, I want to create fairness, and give a bit of background about who you are as a person. If you like hiking and the outdoors, add that in, because it says that you're not one-dimensional, that you're someone that can do more than one thing. So I'll try and send you guys a link in here that gives mock interview questions. What I normally use, and it's something I still use if I have to apply for vacancies, is to Google interview prep questions. So you get a lot of sites that will give you the question and more or less of how you need to answer it. And please don't just copy and paste the answer that's on the website. You need to make it personal and make it about you. If the website says that, say for instance, if they ask you, what is your strengths and weaknesses, don't go and add in a strength and weakness that you don't have. Try and make it personal, but because the link I'll send you now, it's more or less just a guideline of how to answer these types of questions. But like I said, it's best to just be yourself. It saved me millions of times just being myself in that answer.
Wow. Okay. Now we know authenticity is very key. There is a hand up. Can you please put through whoever hand was up? Mbalentle Temba. Unmute yourself, please. Welcome. You can ask a question.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. My question is that now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
now
please.
Due to the pandemic, as students, we are now mostly at home studying and all of that. And I'd like to know that due to the vacation programs, most of them are in the big cities where our universities are, such as Cape Town, Johannesburg, Pretoria, and so forth. And currently, now we are just cooped up at home. Is there anything geared towards changing, broadening the summer vacations, and also the winter vacations, such as now, putting it more into a digitalized format, going into the fourth industrial revolution, because I believe that the COVID-19, the pandemic has forced us into the fourth industrial revolution, like it or not. So in terms of not only sitting at home and cooping up into book knowledge, is there anything practical that we can do?
Okay, I don't know of any company that's actually went on to digital with the work skills programs. I'm not even going to lie to you. I don't, because I think most of us are just trying to survive during this time and get to the other end of it. But what I've advised is, because I'm part of an NGO as well, so I work with the young people. What I've advised them to do during this time is to try and upskill yourself. So by doing online, Google has actually quite a few free programs where you get a certificate as well, where you can just try and upskill yourself into the space where you are. And also using this time to pop a message in if you're confused about what's your next, say if you're in your third or your final year and you're confused about where to go next, pop a message. If you're an attorney, find me on LinkedIn and pop me an email to say, look, I'm a bit confused about XYZ. How do I get around it? And just try and reach out to people during this time to build your own network, because I don't know one senior professional that just, okay, let me not make it seem that we answer all of our emails and our LinkedIn messages, but most of us would take the time to answer someone if it's a student that's trying to find their feet, because we've been there. So I'm never going to tell you I'm too busy. I might not answer immediately, but I'll answer you if you have to ask me. I'm an attorney. I'm confused about whether I need to go and litigate or if I need to go to corporate. What would you advise? And at least the least I would do is to send you the links and the necessary courses that you can look at to try and help you through this time. So for now, I'd probably try and use just free courses to try and upskill yourself during this period, because even that would show that you took the initiative to try and improve yourself during this time and you weren't just sitting at home doing nothing. And most jobs you do get by networking. I'm not saying that you need to ask your friends and so forth. Networking is by tagging us on social media and asking questions afterwards. You're busy trying to build your profile and the people you have access to as well. So like I said, I don't know of anyone that's moved their programs online. I just know that most of the advice I've given was to try and upskill, because obviously you're trying to limit your access to the outside world. So even with my kids, I've asked them rather to stay at home and not go and volunteer at NGOs and place themselves at risk now trying to get experience. So try and upskill yourself, because there is quite a number of free programs that there are at present. I hope that answers you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. There's one on the chat. When applying for a graduate program, is it a given that the selected candidate will stay in the company for a formal permanent position?
No, unfortunately, it isn't. It's the same with any kind of internship. The company only nitpicks who they want after the fact. So going through that program will give you the information and the skill sets. And what I normally advise, even the interns that I get, is I'm not going to sit and run after you to say, oh, do you want to learn something? Use your graduate recruitment program to network within the company. And you don't necessarily only have to network with the people in the group. Try and find other people within your organization. People underestimate how much influence your HR team generally has. As you need to be so nice to your HR team and to senior managers that by the end of the program, when they do review who they want to keep, that when your name comes up, everybody needs to say that person works hard and they're going to be of value to the company. So your graduate recruitment program, treat it as a 12-month interview process, because for that full 12 months, all we sit and watch does this person take initiative? Do they come to work on time? Do they add extra value? So if you get given 5 tasks every day, go and ask your reporting manager for more work, because companies try and retain the people that they know are going to add value. By being on the program, you aren't automatically adding value to them. They do it, yes, because they need the BEE points and the law says that we have to do it, but try and just put yourself out there. I know it's very hard, especially if you're an introvert, because that was me. I'm before I started in corporate, I was extremely shy. And if someone had said something, I would sit back because I wouldn't want to. And I had to learn to force myself to speak up and ask questions. If people had said, look, there's this task, I would ask, can I do something extra and stay behind to do the something extra? Because I knew I didn't have the sparkling personality, because you get people that they have these personalities that everyone wants to be around, and that wasn't me. So what set me aside was, anywhere you go, if you ask about me, they're going to tell you she works extremely hard and she works hard hours.